For 10 consecutive years, she was the best-selling author, and also my wife. After her latest book Starry Sky became a huge hit, she announced her retirement from writing. At the book signing event, she held the microphone tightly, tears welling in her eyes. I dedicate this book to the memory of my lost youth. Her deep affection moved the entire internet, and countless fans were left in tears, but I sat in a high-end restaurant I had reserved 6 months in advance, tearing up the film adaptation contract she had always dreamed of, replacing it with a divorce agreement. Later, I left with style, heading across the ocean, while she searched for me in a frenzy. Chapter 1. When Chloe returned home, I had just sold my company shares, kicking off her high heels. She complained, "Why are the lights off?" "I don't like it," I responded coldly. Chloe furrowed her brows, but didn't say much. It wasn't until she entered the kitchen and saw that dinner hadn't been prepared like usual that she pointed at the cold stove and scolded me. "William, what's wrong with you? Today is our 7th wedding anniversary. You couldn't even make dinner." "Why should I make dinner?" I countered. Perhaps my odd attitude triggered Chloe. With a slap, she threw her bag in my face. "William, are you giving me attitude? It's just a little late. I told you. Today is my new book signing event, and my last fan meeting before I retire. Are you asking me to leave all those fans behind just to have dinner with you? Does that sound right?" Not right, but it seemed fine to her to publicly declare her love for Orion on this day. Sitting on the sofa, I suddenly felt like a fool. I threw out the words, "Chloe, let's get a divorce," and went upstairs, the sound of water running in the bathroom. I wiped my face. An hour ago, I was waiting in a restaurant I had reserved 6 months in advance, expecting Chloe to keep our date. Today was our 7th wedding anniversary. Chloe had promised me a surprise. I also held her eagerly awaited contract for the film adaptation of her new book, imagining countless times the joy she would feel upon receiving it, until just before the signing event, Chloe had messaged me, "Hubby, I'm a bit busy today. Wait for me. Kisses." A wave of sweetness flooded my heart, and I replied that it was no rush. Casually opening the live stream of the signing event, Chloe stood in a white dress, tears in her eyes, holding the microphone as she choked up and began to speak. "Thank you all for your support. Starry Sky is based on real events, and it records the innocent love between me and my first love, Orion. This book holds my entire youthful, naive memories, and I have decided to retire from writing after this." I froze in place, while thunderous applause filled the live stream. Countless fans rushed forward, asking Chloe about the outcome of her romance with Orion. I held my breath, until she spoke again, her eyes red. "My love left me when I was 18. I've missed him all these years." My heart shattered. I didn't even know how I made it back home. If Orion was her true love, what was I to her? What did 7 years of marriage mean? Chapter 2. After my shower, I started packing my things. I didn't know when, but Chloe had appeared in the bedroom. She looked at my actions, and for the first time, I saw a hint of panic in her usually calm eyes. She grabbed my hand and spoke. "Hubby, I know today's incident made you angry." I paused for a moment, and my movements came to a halt as well. Chloe continued, shaking my arm and acting coquettishly. "I was late for our anniversary. It's my fault. I even saved a signed copy of Starry Sky for you. Aren't you happy?" Looking at the book in Chloe's hands, with Starry Sky printed on the cover, I only felt mockery. On our wedding anniversary, she was reminiscing about her late first love, and now she was dragging me into it too. I pushed the book away, coldly saying, "You can keep the book for remembering Orion. I don't need it." Chloe's face turned pale instantly. She tried to say something, but I had already grabbed my luggage and walked toward the door. Seeing my resolute back, Chloe lost her temper. "William, are you done? Orion has been dead for so many years. Do you really need to argue with me every day over a dead person?" No, there was no need, but I knew that in Chloe's heart, Orion was never just a person who had died years ago. His habits, his hobbies, every word he said, every expression he made, they were always present in our life. After 7 years, I thought I had finally warmed Chloe's heart, but I never imagined that in the deepest corner of her heart, the person she still longed for was Orion. Since in this 3-person relationship, I had always been the one excluded. Fine, I would step out. Chloe was also furious with my silence. She threw our wedding photo from upstairs at my feet, as if venting her frustration. "Fine, you go. If you're leaving, don't come back. Tomorrow, we're going to the civil affairs office to divorce." On the desolate street, I dragged my luggage, walking alone. I couldn't help but think about the past between Chloe, Orion, and me. I knew Chloe had a deceased first love. Orion had been a huge part of her youth. Almost from start to finish, they went to school together, painted together in art studios, and shared their innermost feelings, until Chloe's 18th birthday, when Orion missed her coming-of-age ceremony because of an important art competition. That day, Chloe had an enormous argument with Orion, even saying that if he couldn't come back in time, they'd break up. In a desperate attempt to make it back, Orion risked crossing the railway tracks, only to be struck by a train that had unexpectedly arrived. The speeding train left no trace of Orion's body. Chloe was devastated, even trying to commit suicide by lying on the tracks. When Chloe's parents brought her to the hospital, I happened to be interning in the psychiatry department. To cure Chloe, I spent nearly every day and night in the hospital. In the end, Chloe finally opened up and we developed feelings that went beyond the doctor-patient relationship. When Chloe shyly handed me her short story and confessed her love, I hesitated, but love won over reason, and I accepted her confession. Chloe had a dream of being in the film industry. She always hoped her works would make it to the big screen. For Chloe, I gave up my passion for medicine and invested in a film company. I had always believed that my relationship with Chloe was unshakable, but today, I realized how ridiculous I was. My phone rang in my pocket. It was a call from my godmother. "William, you really sold the film company. That was your life's work. I asked you to sell it and move abroad with us, but you refused." "Why suddenly? If I want to sell it, I'll sell it," I interrupted my godmother. "Godmother, I want to move abroad." There was a brief pause on the other end of the line, and then she became ecstatic. "William, you finally figured it out. That's wonderful. When will you come?" "I'll be going back to China next month." "How about tomorrow?" "I'll book the flight." After booking my flight, I spent the night at a nearby hotel. Chloe didn't call me. Instead, she posted on Twitter. I glanced at it. She was at the school Orion once attended. She had taken a photo with Orion's teacher, captioned, "The best teacher in the world." In the background of their photo, there was a large landscape painting hanging. I recognized it immediately. It was Orion's final painting. Not only did she publicly declare her love for Orion on our wedding anniversary, but after our fight, she was casually visiting Orion's mentor. Even though I knew that in Chloe's heart, I meant nothing, seeing that post still made me sneer. Something inside me shattered. I threw my phone aside and buried my head in the pillow, falling into a deep sleep. Chapter 3. I was awakened by the frantic ringing of my phone. It was Chloe's best friend calling. "William, Chloe's drunk. Can you come and pick her up?" Without a second thought, I declined. "I'm not going." Chloe's best friend immediately panicked. "William, what kind of person are you? Do you even know that Chloe sold the rights to Starry Sky at a low price just so your company could run smoothly?" "Yes, she said those things in front of the media, but she did it to make a quick sale. Chloe has worked so hard for you, and you're treating her like this. I'm really heartbroken for her." I was stunned. Chloe sold the rights to Starry Sky at a low price to help my company. How did I not know this? Then, I remembered the film adaptation contract I had prepared for Chloe that day, and I found it all to be so ridiculous. You can think whatever you want. Anyway, Chloe and I are done. I hung up the phone, but after some thought, I felt like I should at least clear things up with Chloe. I took a taxi to the bar Chloe's friend had mentioned. True enough, Chloe was slumped in a booth, completely drunk. As soon as she saw me, her eyes turned red, and she threw herself into my arms, saying, "Hubby, you're finally here." Chloe nuzzled against me like a little kitten. Her affectionate gestures and dependent words made it hard for me to push her away. I couldn't help but think, maybe everything really was a misunderstanding. But the next second, Chloe wrapped her arms around my neck, and tears began to fall onto my clothes. "Orion, you're finally here. I thought you were angry with me and wouldn't come back. I got all your paintings from the teacher, and I've raised the money for your exhibition. You won't have to worry about no one seeing your work anymore. I'm going to hang your paintings all over the city. I want the whole world to know that Orion is the greatest artist." My body froze, and when I reached out to touch Chloe, my hand just dropped, because I couldn't paint. The one who loved painting was Orion. I still helped Chloe back to our home. Like usual, I helped her take off her coat and shoes, then carefully wiped her face with a towel. When I went to unfasten her bra, Chloe, who had been semi-conscious, suddenly snapped awake. She stared at me warily and said, "What are you going to do?" "I'm telling you, I'm Orion's girlfriend, and I won't be with you. If you come any closer, I'll call the police." My hand froze in midair, but the next second, Chloe suddenly collapsed onto the bed behind her, falling into a deep sleep. It dawned on me that everything just now was just her drunken rant, but what no one knew was that even after 7 years of marriage to Chloe, I had never touched her, not even a single finger, because she always said she wasn't ready. But now, it was clear, she wasn't just not ready. She had someone else in her heart, and that was why she couldn't accept anyone else. Looking at Chloe's peaceful sleeping face and hearing her mumble Orion's name, I knew it was time for me to leave. I took out the divorce papers I had printed long ago, placed them on the bedside table in the most obvious spot, and quietly closed the door behind me as I left. However, while waiting at the airport, I still saw the large headline trending on social media. Famous author holds art exhibition for deceased lover. 8 years of devoted love unchanged. The glaring headline felt like a slap to the face, but I didn't feel anything. I simply pulled out my SIM card and threw it in the trash. Even before I discarded the card, I had seen that Chloe had called. Chapter 4. By the time the first light of dawn touched the earth, I had already arrived abroad. Auntie and her family came to pick me up from the airport. Everyone gave me a big hug when they saw me. William, welcome back. Auntie's daughter, Grace, couldn't stop teasing me. William, didn't you say you wanted to be a big director? What happened? Haven't seen your debut film and you're already back. Where's your wife? Grace looked around behind me, and I couldn't help but feel uncomfortable. Auntie nudged Grace with her elbow and then gave me a warm hug, saying, William, welcome home. For the next few days, Auntie made sure Grace stayed with me, treating me to food, drinks, and entertainment, always worried that I might not be happy. Occasionally, Grace would ask why I came abroad, but I chose to remain silent. It wasn't until the weekend dinner that Auntie received a call from Chloe. After a brief moment of hesitation, she asked if I wanted to take the call. I chose to decline, but Chloe's voice suddenly came through the speaker. William, I know you're listening. I have something really important to tell you. Can you please pick up? Reluctantly, I took the call. Chloe, her eyes red, asked me, William, why did you leave without a word? Her question left me speechless, and after a moment of silence, I reminded Chloe, we're getting a divorce. Chloe immediately shook her head, like a child. No, I don't agree. We can't divorce. I remained silent, but Chloe seemed anxious on the other end of the line. William, did you hear something? Those are all lies. It's just the reporters making things up. Please listen to me and let me explain. There was nothing to explain. Some things had already become a foregone conclusion, and no matter how much I tried to deceive myself, I couldn't hide it anymore. I calmly told Chloe, the divorce papers are on the bedside table. Sign them and let me know. Without waiting for her to say anything else, I ended the call. I handed the phone back to Auntie and saw the news of Chloe and Orion all over the place. How laughable. She could explain things to me while still reminiscing about her love for someone else. There was no pain in my chest. I thought to myself that I must have become numb to her lies. As expected, Grace eventually figured out what was going on between me and Chloe. After the family dinner, she asked if I wanted to work at her company. I declined, saying I wasn't interested. I wasn't the type of person with grand ambitions. The reason I started that film company was all because of Chloe. Now that I was apart from her, I had no interest in pursuing anything else. Grace's eyes, however, flashed with a mischievous glint. Next month, there's the world model competition, and our company has secured a spot. Are you sure you don't want to come? My eyes lit up. I had always loved models, to the point of losing track of time when I was at it. I had won countless awards during college. Years ago, when Auntie invited me to come abroad, it was because the modeling clubs abroad were starting to take shape, and she believed I could make a big impact in the field. But for Chloe's sake, I had given up on my dream and devoted myself to being by her side. In the end, all I got was her deep betrayal. Now, this rare opportunity was in front of me, and I didn't want to let it slip away. I immediately accepted Grace's offer. After years of not touching models, I thought I'd be rusty, but to my surprise, the muscle memory still remained. After just a little training, I was able to get back into the groove of it. There were voices of doubt, but Grace blocked them all. She said, William has been specializing in this for many years. I believe in him. Soon, the day of the competition arrived. In the waiting room, I nervously adjusted my breathing, and Grace, with her fists clenched, handed me my favorite drink. Good luck, William, you've got this. With her encouragement, I stepped onto the battleground I hadn't faced in 10 years, and then I won the championship. Thunderous applause erupted throughout the arena, and everyone gathered around me. Even Grace's eyes filled with tears. Amidst the congratulatory shouts, I spotted a familiar figure. It was Chloe. When she saw that I had won, she immediately rushed to the stage, wanting to give me a big hug. I dodged her. The move made Chloe feel hurt, but soon, she composed herself, a bright smile on her face as she congratulated me. William, congratulations on winning the championship. Thanks, I said flatly. After expressing my gratitude, I turned to leave, but Chloe stopped me and quietly asked, William, when are you coming back with me? Come back. I had never considered that question, but seeing the hope in Chloe's eyes, I still found it somewhat laughable. I'm not coming back, I said. I've already told you. I want a divorce. Chloe grew anxious. William, I know you're angry, but haven't you been upset for long enough? Even if you're unhappy with me, surely that anger has been vented by now, right? Come on, let's go back together. Let's go back to the way things were, just like before. Chapter 5, a temper tantrum. So, all my disappointment and sadness were nothing more than a temper tantrum in Chloe's eyes. I suddenly found it ridiculously laughable, and shook off Chloe's hand, saying each word clearly. I'm not throwing a tantrum. I'm serious. Since you can't forget Orion so easily, I'll step aside. From now on, you can freely memorialize him without anyone getting in your way. But Chloe refused to let go of my hand. Under the spotlight, someone recognized her and started taking pictures like crazy. The microphone was shoved in front of her face. Chloe, are you the author of Starry Sky? Didn't you say before that you were going to stop writing in memory of your late lover? Who is this man? Do you have a new lover? What does Orion mean to you? One question after another struck like thunder, and Chloe couldn't answer any of them. Seeing her face turning red, I suddenly found everything utterly ironic. I let out a cold laugh and walked off the stage alone. But these reporters were more persistent than I expected. When they couldn't get any answers from Chloe, they shoved the microphone in my face, firing questions that were brutally sharp. Mr. William, are you the third party in Chloe and Orion's relationship? Why are you ruining their relationship? Fighting for the love of a deceased person. Don't you feel any guilt? I glanced at Chloe beside me, her lips tightly pressed together, not a word of explanation escaping her. She let the malicious speculations drown me. Finally, it was Grace, unable to stand it anymore, who pushed through the crowd to stand by my side and block all the ill-intentioned questions. What are you all saying? William and Chloe are legally married. They've been married for 7 years. As for that Orion, I've never heard of him. Even if there was a third party, it would be him. Grace's words immediately shifted the attention, and all eyes turned to Chloe. Under everyone's gaze, Chloe couldn't lie anymore and had to admit our relationship. Not only that, but she also seized the opportunity to tearfully ask me, William, I did all of this to fulfill Orion's last wish. Now that his wish has been fulfilled, will you come back with me? No, I refused firmly. Sign the divorce papers soon. I don't want to take this to court. I walked away with large strides, leaving Chloe behind, calling my name desperately, but her voice was drowned out by the reporters gossiping. Chloe and I both made the trending news. I don't know who made it their business, but they revealed everything about the years we spent together, including the time when Chloe had tried to take her life and how I had stayed by her side, helping her get through it. Looking at the overwhelming discussions online, I had a moment of disorientation. I had done so much for Chloe, but it no longer mattered. Now that I had decided to let go, the amount of effort put in meant nothing. As for Chloe, faced with the media's intense bombardment, she was running around, utterly overwhelmed. But no matter what the outside world said, Chloe still refused to divorce me. She even publicly claimed that everything was a misunderstanding and that we wouldn't separate. I found it laughable and didn't intend to waste any more time on the matter. I immediately filed for divorce, but I didn't expect her to show up at my house. To celebrate my victory, Grace threw several parties in a row. After several days of drinking, I was dizzy and lightheaded. The next morning, I wanted to go out for a cup of soy milk, but before I could leave, I saw Chloe standing at the gate of the neighborhood, holding a huge bouquet of flowers. The cold winter wind made her nose turn red. Chloe stood there, puffing out air and stomping her feet while occasionally adjusting the flowers in her arms. When she saw me, her face lit up, and she ran over. William, I've finally waited for you. What are you waiting for me for? I asked her. I know I was wrong. The art exhibition is over. William, can we go home? Chloe's tone carried a cautiousness I had never heard before, a tone I never dared to imagine in the past. We had fought over Orion before, but each time, I had been the one to apologize. I had once hoped that Orion, who stood between us, would disappear. That one day, I could occupy a unique place in Chloe's heart. But when that day truly came, I realized I didn't need it anymore. Ignoring everything she said, I asked her, when will you sign the divorce papers? Hearing this, Chloe's face paled, and the expression on her face became filled with pleading. William, must we always talk about these hurtful things when we meet? Hurtful? I didn't think so. Compared to the hurtful things Chloe had said to me over the years for Orion, this question was hardly anything. Moreover, hadn't this always been what Chloe wanted? A legitimate, open identity as someone who loved Orion. Not wanting to say more, I laid everything bare. You don't have to sign, but I've already filed for divorce. The court hearing is next week. Make sure to show up. Chloe's face instantly turned ashen. She grabbed my sleeve, her face turning white. William, can we really never go back? I brought you something. Your favorite jasmine flowers. Chloe handed me the bouquet, but before the flowers could even get close, Grace, who had come out, snatched them away and tossed them into the trash. Does William have a pollen allergy? Are you trying to kill him? Chloe tried to say something more, but my face started swelling up rapidly due to the allergic reaction. With no time to say anything, Grace immediately drove me to the hospital. Chapter 6. The rapid allergic reaction caused me to lose consciousness. The doctor said I needed a blood transfusion, but my blood type was special, and the hospital didn't have a matching blood supply. Even if they tried to get some from the nearest place, it would be too late. Everyone was panicking, but Chloe, who was always terrified of pain, stepped forward. She rolled up her sleeve and offered to donate blood to me. When I woke up, Chloe's face was as pale as paper, but she still managed to pull out a weak smile and said, "You're awake. William, I'm so glad you're okay." I saw the bruise on her arm from where the needle had been, and a strange feeling stirred in my heart. I knew how much Chloe feared pain. She was so afraid of it that she wouldn't even undergo a physical examination. But to think that this same Chloe, who was terrified of pain, would cut her wrist for Orion. Suddenly, my restless heart calmed. I looked at Chloe and said, "Thank you." A happy smile spread across Chloe's face. "William, I'm so happy to donate blood for you. I've also booked a VIP ward for you." But before she could finish, I turned to Grace and said, "How much is 1 milliliter of blood?" "Pay her 3 times the market price." The joy on Chloe's face vanished instantly, replaced by deep, crushing despair. "William, I didn't donate blood for money, I know. But Chloe, I don't want any more connections with you, not even a little." I saw Chloe's face turn ashen, and she seemed like she wanted to say something, but my vitals were dropping rapidly. The attending doctor, seeing this, furrowed his brows tightly. "The patient is just starting to improve. He can't be emotionally agitated. Are you trying to kill him with your words?" "I'm not. I just want to talk to him." Chloe tried to explain but was directly escorted out by the doctor. For the next few days, she wasn't allowed to visit me at all. Chloe still stayed outside my hospital room. Every day, she brought me various nutrition-rich meals, but I didn't even glance at them. Grace kept her outside. The reason was simple. Most of the food Chloe brought was something I couldn't eat. There were even several items that were on my list of allergens. Sometimes, even Grace would ask in confusion, "William, you two really were together for 7 years. How come I feel like Chloe doesn't know you as well as I do? You clearly can't eat seafood or nuts." But she brought several dishes with those ingredients. Even after I told her, "The next time she brings me food, it's the same allergic food." Does she want to take care of you, or does she want to kill you with medicine? I just smiled. I believe Chloe genuinely wanted to take care of me. After all, we had been together for 7 years, and she had never stepped foot in a kitchen. Now, she was making a new, unique nutrition meal for me every day. But it was also true that after 7 years, she knew nothing about me. How else could I explain that Grace, who barely spent any time with me, knew my allergies, while Chloe, who lived with me day and night, knew nothing? I thought back to the past, when every year on Orion's anniversary, Chloe would carefully prepare offerings, repeatedly reminding the store what could and couldn't be included. Once, the store was too busy and forgot her instructions, and she flew into a rage, immediately filing a complaint against them. Love and indifference were so clear, but it didn't matter anymore, because I no longer loved her. What did it matter if Chloe remembered my allergies or treated me well? The court date came quickly. I hadn't been discharged, so Grace attended in my place. In court, Chloe insisted that our problems were all misunderstandings. She presented a lot of things I had done for her as evidence of our affection. Grace scoffed and simply pulled out an interview Chloe had done before she stopped writing, which was enough to prove that our relationship had long since fallen apart. Not to mention the art exhibition she had organized for Orion and the fact that she allowed people to slander me as the third party in her and Orion's relationship, without offering any explanation. In the end, the judge ruled for our divorce. The moment I received the divorce decree, Chloe fainted. Out of humanitarian concern, Grace called an ambulance for her and then walked away without looking back. Chapter 7. After the divorce, my recovery was swift. In less than a week, I was discharged from the hospital. Grace signed me on to her company, making me the star player in major competitions. She even gave me half of the company's shares. I felt uneasy about it, but Grace looked at me with a big smile. "What's wrong? Without you, this studio wouldn't even exist. Take it. If you're unhappy, it means you don't care about me." I had no choice but to accept, telling her I would keep the shares for now, and when she eventually got married, I would give them to her as a dowry. But Grace wasn't pleased. She muttered, "Who wants to get married? I don't want to get married. If I do, it has to be two." Her words were lost in the wind, but I understood Grace's feelings. Still, after my last relationship, I had been so hurt by Chloe that I needed time to heal my wounds. I also needed to clear some space in my heart, so that someone better could come in. In the following days, Grace and I didn't bring up any talk of romance. I focused entirely on the competitions, winning one world-class award after another. Along the way, I even broke several world records. In every competition, Grace was by my side. Her pockets seemed like Doraemon's, always pulling out things I loved. Through our joint efforts, the small club we once started had grown into a listed corporation. Our names, mine and Grace's, were printed on all kinds of promotional materials, and we became well known around the world. Another year's world championship arrived, and I broke my own record with a first-place finish. On the podium, I saw a familiar figure in the audience. It was Chloe. For more than a year, She had attended almost every one of my competitions. She even helped me analyze my strengths and weaknesses, as well as those of my competitors. Before this, Chloe had shown no interest in model design. She had even once scorned my hobbies, saying to my face that only people like Orion, who used a paintbrush to express their love for the world, understood what art was. What I did was nothing more than childish play. Now, she had taken up her pen, which she had held for many years, and was summarizing various strategies for me. Yet all I felt was annoyance. I didn't even glance at the thick piles of notes. I stuffed them all into the trash can. Eventually, I even told the staff around me, "Don't bring me things like that again. If you get them, just throw them away." Suddenly, a reporter's question interrupted my thoughts. "Mr. William, your entry this time is called Love Nest, and it is said to be designed for your beloved. Can you tell us who your lover is?" Chloe sat up straight in the audience, and I could see the flicker of hope in her eyes. She even nervously tugged at her clothes, but I didn't even look at her. I took Grace's hand and answered the reporter's question confidently. "Of course, Love Nest is a design I created for my beloved, Miss Grace. She's been by my side all year, and I'd like to take this opportunity to express my feelings to her, in front of the entire world." I knelt down, pulled out the ring I had prepared in my pocket, and asked Grace, "Grace, will you marry me?" Grace's face lit up with surprise. She covered her mouth, tears welling in her eyes, and nodded yes. The applause was deafening, and we kissed, as if the whole world was just the two of us. The crowd was a blur, and I saw Chloe's face drain of color. Something in her hand seemed to slip and fall, but I didn't pay attention, because I had already taken Grace's hand and was walking toward the podium, where we would share the glory of being #1 in the world. By the time the awards ceremony ended, Chloe had disappeared. However, the cleaning staff found an unpublished book. On the title page, it read, "To the person I love most in this life." When I saw the name William in the title, I found it ridiculous. Grace came up from behind and asked if I had seen anything. "Nothing. By the way, where do you want to have the wedding?" "So soon?" "I haven't decided yet." "How about the Maldives?" Grace blushed and looked shy, and I nodded, taking her hand as we got into the car. Outside the venue, a familiar figure peeked out like a rat, spying on the happiness between Grace and me. But this time, I didn't look back. My ex-girlfriend had a peculiar temper, willful, capricious, and prone to throwing tantrums. She wanted the whole world to revolve around her, and yet, I willingly played the role of her most humble simp. Every day, I was at her beck and call, providing endless emotional value. Why? Because my ex-girlfriend was loaded, a textbook young lady from a wealthy family. The best part, as long as I simped for her the right way, she was happy to spend money on me. Before long, I was driving a luxury car and living in a lavish mansion. What I didn't expect was that new flames always replace old ones. Her true love returned from abroad, and within days, he had her utterly mesmerized. On the day we broke up, I put on my most sycophantic smile and asked, "So, about the luxury car and mansion you gave me?" She curled her lips in disgust and scoffed, "Get lost, simp." The scorching sun beat down as I obediently took off, running at full speed. Property deed in hand. Chapter 1. I had been a simp since elementary school, one who was also extremely money-minded. My deskmate back then was rich, with a drawer full of cash and loose change every day. I became her personal bodyguard for $10 a day. Even when she went to the restroom, I would stand guard outside the girls' bathroom. Despite my young age, my piggy bank was overflowing with money. Later, she transferred schools, but thanks to my savings from that gig, I made it through elementary school without financial trouble. By the time I was in middle school, I had ventured into small business. During lunch breaks, I would buy a backpack full of snacks from the convenience store outside school and resell them at a markup during recess. The biggest spender in my class was a guy named David, a typical street-smart tough guy. He was incredibly generous, carrying a few $100 in pocket money every day. I never quite understood why, but during every break, he would spend dozens of dollars on snacks from me, only to distribute them to others for fun. By the end of recess, the floor would be littered with snack wrappers, and he would order me to clean up, paying me $20 per sweep. Naturally, I was diligent. Every day, I followed him around, running errands like a loyal lackey. Most students back then had little concept of money, but I did pretty well for myself. At my peak, I was making $300 a day. School kids' money was always the easiest to earn. People who hadn't experienced hardship had no idea of its value. I had no parents. I grew up alone, and from a young age, my only focus was making money. When I got to college, I worked like crazy to earn a living, juggling multiple part-time jobs from morning till night. And then, I met Willow. She was a rich girl through and through, spoiled, temperamental, and a reckless spender. What kind of person was Willow? She was the belle of the arts department, from a family that ran a jewelry business, a classic young lady. How did we meet? I was the head of the disciplinary committee, And this was the 12th time I had caught her skipping class. Her advisor, glaring at the attendance sheet, gritted his teeth and said, "Just because she's rich doesn't mean she gets a free pass. Don't bother covering for her." Since the instructor had spoken, I had no choice. I continued marking her absent every day. Eventually, right before the holidays, she stormed into my office. She looked down at me from her high horse and demanded, "What's the deal with you?" I sighed helplessly. "Sorry, there's nothing I can do." She scoffed. "Nothing you can do? Ever thought of finding a way?" She lounged on the couch, looking at me with irritation. In the end, I did find a way. I ran around campus, pulling some strings, and got her problem sorted out. Willow was very pleased with my loyal dog performance. Apparently, she was in such a good mood, and saw how poor I was, that she casually took off her bracelet and handed it to me. A $30,000 bracelet. I bowed to her with the utmost reverence and started greeting her morning and night. Then, one day, she asked me, "Are you trying to pursue me?" I cautiously replied, "Miss, do you not like me messaging you? I won't do it anymore if it bothers you." She said nothing for a long time. Then, finally, a message popped up. "Your name is George, right?" "Yes." "Do you know David?" "Yes, I do. He's failing a class too." I replied instantly, "Understood. I'll take care of it in the next couple of days." She responded, Thanks." Willow truly lived up to her wealthy upbringing. Immediately after, she sent me a $5,000 red packet. Generous as ever, I accepted it without hesitation and replied with a polite emoji. Perhaps it was because I had taken too much money from Willow, but when we later started dating, she often complained that I didn't provide enough emotional value. Her most common complaint was, "George, I paid for this. What else could I do?" Naturally, I had to improve my service quality. After all, I wasn't it for the money from the start. If she wanted to be a little spoiled and demanding, wasn't that only fair? Chapter 2. How did Willow and I start dating? It all goes back to David. Funny enough, he and I had quite the fate. We went to the same middle school, the same high school, and later even ended up at the same university. But after college started, our majors were completely different, so we rarely crossed paths. If we happened to run into each other, we'd nod in acknowledgement, but that was about it. Then one night, deep into the late hours, Willow called me. "Do you have a car?" she asked. "I do," I replied. She told me she was drunk and couldn't drive, then casually sent me a red packet and told me to come pick her up. I rushed out in the middle of the night, on my battered little electric scooter. The moment Willow saw it, she burst into laughter. "This is my first time riding one of these." Scratching my head awkwardly, I offered, "Want me to call you a cab instead?" She pursed her lips. "Nah, cabs are uncomfortable. The scooter is fine, at least I can get some fresh air." I picked her up, but before we even got back to campus, the drunken antics began. Half crying, half muttering, she rambled, "He's so cruel." I mustered the courage to confess, and he didn't even consider it before rejecting me. Willow grew more and more upset, and before long, she simply hugged my waist and fell asleep against my back. I froze. I was just here to pick her up. Shouldn't there be an extra charge for being hugged like this? When we arrived, I leaned down to unbuckle her helmet. She lifted her head, her cheeks tinged red from the wind, her delicate features so stunning I couldn't look away. At that moment, my heart pounded wildly. My breathing grew unsteady. I had a sudden premonition. I was about to strike gold. Without hesitation, I blurted out, "How about, you just make me your boyfriend?" She rolled her eyes in disdain and didn't answer directly. Instead, she shoved a luxury car key into my hand and said, "My boyfriend can't be picking me up in something this shabby." Suppressing the grin threatening to break out on my face, I respectfully accepted the key and watched her head upstairs. Of course, I knew she had only agreed because she was upset and needed a rebound to make herself feel better. But so what? I was a tool. Sure, but I was a tool with a salary. That night, I stared at the car key in my hand, growing happier the longer I looked. Eventually, I fell asleep grinning ear to ear. I had a girlfriend now, but only Willow and I knew about it. She never mentioned it, and neither did I. Whenever young lady summoned me, I was always at her service, not for love, but for the perks. Dating her didn't cost me a dime. In fact, she'd send me money, telling me to dress properly before meeting her. I had upgraded to a life of free meals and drinks. Sometimes, we'd dine at high-end restaurants. She sat there, eating gracefully, the picture of someone raised in luxury. No matter how exquisite the food was, she ate slowly, savoring every bite. She couldn't stand watching me devour my food. After just a few bites, she'd wrinkle her nose and scold, "Were you reincarnated from a starving ghost?" I had no comment. If she had ever been an orphan, she'd know I could be even hungrier. I chuckled sheepishly, slowed my pace, and took smaller bites. When I saw she was no longer annoyed, I quietly resumed my meal. At social gatherings, I kept a low profile, focusing entirely on eating, making silent profits, so to speak. If someone called my name, I'd look up, smile, and answer politely. Once they lost interest, I'd go back to eating. I was well behaved. On my birthday, Willow transferred me money, telling me to rent a yacht for the occasion. Gotta keep up appearances, she said. So, I did. The yacht was massive, and the sea breeze was refreshing. I closed my eyes and made a silent wish. Willow rolled her eyes, let out a snort, and cut in. What's the point of making a wish in your head? Just say it out loud. I hesitated for a moment before stating plainly, I want to buy a house. She swept her long hair to one side and scolded. Can't you be a little more ambitious? Then, without missing a beat, she added, it's just a house. I'll gift you one. We'll go for the transfer in 2 days. She lowered her gaze and continued scrolling through her phone, as if she had just casually mentioned the weather. The sunset at the dock was breathtaking. The evening breeze brushed past, and on impulse, I turned my head, suddenly wanting to kiss her. I didn't want the house. I could save up and buy that myself. Right now, I just wanted to kiss her. I had barely reached out to pull her into an embrace when she abruptly stood up. She had received a voice message. I didn't catch what it said, but she frowned slightly and muttered, it's getting cold. Take me back. Night had fallen. Without waiting for my response, she got off the yacht and left in a hurry. Later, when I got back to the dorm, I found out that David had dislocated his shoulder while playing basketball and had been sent to the hospital. I leaned over just in time to see a photo someone had taken at the hospital. Willow was standing right there beside him. I suddenly remembered the cake I had left unfinished. After a long pause, I let out a yawn, grabbed my phone, and climbed into bed. Chapter 3. For a few days, Willow was busy, and I didn't message her either. Then came the day David was discharged from the hospital. Willow texted me, asking me to join her on an outing, a mountain hike. When we got there, I realized they had come in 2 cars, with exactly 8 people. I was the 9th. I froze for a moment. Everyone was already seated, and no one said a word. The awkwardness was almost tangible. But since I was already there, it felt even more awkward to turn around and leave. Willow glanced at me, frowned, and then shifted her gaze toward a nearby sightseeing shuttle. David reached out and grabbed my arm. Hop in, man. We can squeeze together. He was sitting in the back seat, and there was a bit of space. But he had only just gotten out of the hospital and was clearly not feeling his best. I quickly shook my head and smiled. It's fine. I'll just take the shuttle. It goes all the way up anyway. David looked at me for a long moment before finally letting go. Their cars drove off, leaving me alone in a pavilion. It wasn't peak tourist season, so there weren't many people around, just me, waiting by myself. After a long while, the shuttle arrived. I boarded it, and by the time I reached the summit, the group had already started their cookout. They were all rich kids, second-generation wealthy types, most of whom I didn't really know. Maybe I dined with 1 or 2 of them before. I found a corner and sat there from noon until late afternoon. They were grilling skewers. Occasionally, someone passed me one, and with the nice view all around, I ate until I was half full before taking in the scenery. I thought it might be nice to go exploring with Willow. Trying to be helpful, I approached her with a smile, telling her I planned to walk around and asked if she wanted to join me. But she seemed preoccupied and wouldn't even look at me. She just shook her head. The mountain air was refreshing. Coming from an orphanage background, I rarely got the chance to travel or have fun. I wandered around for nearly an hour, guessing they'd be done eating soon. Then I headed back, but what greeted me was not what I expected. The campsite was empty. Everyone was gone. In that instant, I realized that no matter how thick-skinned you are, there's a limit to what you can endure. It was already dusk, and the shuttle had stopped running. I had no choice but to walk down the mountain. With the sun setting behind the hills, there I was, alone on the winding paths. Halfway down, my phone died. Hanging my head, I took it step by step. The path reminded me of the time I ran away from the orphanage as a child. Same dim light, same gradually blurring surroundings, until they vanished into an impenetrable darkness. I couldn't find my way home back then, and my father never returned. Lost in thought, I missed a step and nearly slipped off the edge. My heart hammered in my chest, and I blurted out, "Willow," but all I heard was my own echo reverberating through the mountains, followed by silence. I sighed, unable to fathom why she was acting so stubborn. Steeling myself, I got back up. The moonlight filtered through the darkness, guiding my way along the narrow trail. I walked the entire night, thinking all the while. When morning finally came, I spotted a bus stop. The driver helped me charge my phone a little, and he nearly jumped when he saw how disheveled I was. "What happened to you?" he asked, alarmed. "Did you get hurt on the mountain? Why didn't you call 911? I waved my dead phone. "I forgot to check the battery. It died on me," he sighed. "Next time, let your family know before you head out. If you go missing, they'll at least know to call the police." I had no one to call. Not really. I just smiled. "Right. Thanks, sir." Only when my phone finally powered on did I see Willow's message from the night before. "Well, Keep wandering if you want. I'm leaving first. I let out a wry laugh, slumped into the back seat of the bus, and fell fast asleep. Chapter 4. We continued meeting up for dates and meals every few days, and I kept providing her with endless emotional support, until one day, she apparently remembered what she'd said on my birthday. She actually transferred the property ownership of a small apartment to me. It wasn't very large, 2 bedrooms and a living room. Never lived in, and probably worth next to nothing in Willow's eyes. But to me, the day I got the deed, I felt an overwhelming urge to kneel on the spot in gratitude. She rolled her eyes and muttered, "Is it that big of a deal? It's just a tiny apartment. Can't you have a bit more ambition?" I looked her in the eye and replied, "Willow, you just don't understand. I was still in the discipline committee at school, and she kept sending me red packets. Whenever she had no classes, I'd help Willow sign in so she wouldn't get in trouble for skipping. She didn't ask much of me, just that she avoid any more attendance issues." I took my job seriously. When the new year came around, as usual, everyone else went home. I didn't because, well, I had no home to return to. This year, however, I went to the little apartment. It was simply furnished, no TV or anything. So, I figured I'd head out before New Year's Day and buy one. While I was browsing in the electronics store, I ran into Willow. She'd brought her younger sister along, a cute little girl around 8 or 9 years old. Willow looked frazzled, on the verge of being driven crazy by her sister. The moment she spotted me, her eyes lit up. I hurried over, all sycophantic smiles. "Young lady, any instructions?" she asked. "Do you know how to fold paper cranes?" I nodded. "Piece of cake," she said. "Then teach her, will you?" Of course, I nodded eagerly. That's when I noticed the little girl holding a piece of paper. She looked so upset she was practically crying. But once she heard I could fold it for her, she handed the paper to me. It was just a regular piece of colored paper. I folded it, and with the paper crane in hand, the little girl dashed off to play with other children. Willow scowled. "What's so special about a cheap piece of colored paper?" I said. "If someone truly loves something, no matter how cheap it is, it's still a treasure." She let out a snort. "So, you're here shopping?" I smiled. "Yeah, planning to buy a TV," she said. "Then take me along. I've got a card in my bag." With that, she handed me her purse and shopping bags to carry. The meaning was obvious. Young lady was going to buy me a TV. I accepted with gratitude flooding my chest. "Thank you, Willow," she huffed proudly. The TV was great. Willow was great, too. Still, the two of us didn't quite qualify as boyfriend and girlfriend, maybe just friends, or acquaintances. I was a junior now, already 21. That New Year's Eve, I made dumplings all by myself and watched the fireworks outside. The street was full of young people running around with fireworks in hand. I mingled among them, carrying my own fireworks to the riverside and watching them light up the sky. Back at the orphanage, every New Year's Eve, we'd finish dinner early and head to bed. No one could sleep, though, because we all waited for midnight. When the fireworks started outside, we'd crowd around the small window and watch. At first, only one kid would cry. Then, everyone would start crying silently, tears tracking down our faces as we gazed outside. We didn't want to upset the caregivers who looked after us, but deep down, we still missed home. Now, watching the fireworks here, my eyes grew misty again. All around me, people laughed and celebrated as the sky lit up. I closed my eyes, smiling to myself. Just then, someone tugged at my sleeve. I glanced down. It was Willow's little sister, Sophia. She clutched a toy tiger, wearing a little tiger hat, her eyes bright as stars. In a childlike voice, she said, "Big brother who folds paper cranes." I asked, "What's your name? Where's your sister?" I lifted her into my arms. She replied, "My name is Sophia. My sister's over there." Following her gaze, I saw a familiar group of people, the same crowd from our mountain trip. Willow stood in the middle of them, looking so happy. They'd bought loads of fireworks, painting the night sky red. The display was grand, and I could have joined in. I set Sophia down, made sure she ran back to the group, then backed away and left. On New Year's morning, around noon, someone knocked at my door, waking me up. It was Willow. She pushed Sophia toward me. She insisted on coming to wish you a happy new year. I was speechless. Sophia, looking up at me, said, "Happy New Year, big brother." I never expected anyone would come to give me a New Year's greeting. After rummaging around, all I could find was a piece of red paper to fold into a makeshift red envelope for her. They still hadn't left when another knock sounded at the door. Turns out, there were quite a few visitors on New Year's Day. The moment I opened up, someone threw herself into my arms. "Brother," she squealed. "Did you miss me? I missed you so much." She clung to me, practically wrapping herself around me. I couldn't shake her off quickly enough. "Anna, let go," she huffed. "No way," I said. "There are people here." Reluctantly, Anna released me. She glanced into the room, saw Willow holding Sophia, and after a quick pause, stared at me in disbelief. "George, Did you marry a divorced single mom? What the heck? I was speechless. Don't be ridiculous. Even I'm not that audacious. Willow puffed her cheeks in anger. Are you calling me old? Anna rolled her eyes and leaned toward me, whispering, who is she? George? That bossy tone. If I didn't know better, I'd think she was your mom. I was at a total loss for words. Chapter 5. I rubbed my temples and explained. This is my friend, Willow, and her little sister, Sophia. And this is Anna, who's my adopted kid sister from the orphanage. We're as close as real siblings. Anna pouted. Brother, why is it a biological sister? Can't I be a lover sister instead? I replied. No, you can't. I'm not interested in pretentious coquettes. She poked my arm. Come on, interests can be developed. Don't walk away. Brother, what's for lunch? I took an overnight train and I'm so tired and hungry. Brother, I said, go sit at the table for a bit. 3 minutes. I'll heat something in the microwave and bring it to you. She insisted. No way. You might burn your hands in the microwave, and then I'd feel sorry for you. I'll get it myself. I was speechless. Scram, scram, scram. I bought heat-resistant gloves. Willow watched us from the kitchen doorway for a while, then left with Sophia in her arms. After eating, Anna happily went off to sleep in my room. I hadn't bought any bedding except for my own. Right now it was the only bedroom set up for someone to stay in. I hadn't expected Anna to come. Our universities are so far apart, one in the south, one in the north, and she would have to transfer between 4 different trains to get here. Tickets around New Year's are hard to come by. Every year, I'd call her, and she'd always say she couldn't make the trip. This year, when I called, she said she couldn't get a ticket, and yet here she was now. So on New Year's Day, she just showed up. 3 years had passed since we last met. The once little girl had changed a lot. She was more beautiful now. But to me, she was still that same child. On New Year's Day, some big stores were already open. I went out and bought a comforter and a 4-piece bedding set. The total cost was nearly $2,000. My heart ached just thinking about it. But Anna's bedding had to be decent. She has allergies. I remember her first day at the orphanage. She was assigned the bed next to mine, and I was told to look after her. She ended up having an allergic reaction in the middle of the night. In the morning, I looked at the girl beside me, swollen like a pig, completely dumbfounded. After a moment, I finally reacted and hurriedly carried her out the door. They said she was allergic to the bedding and almost suffocated. After that, Anna got her own special quilt that no one else could touch, except me, because as a little kid, she didn't know how to wash or air out her blankets. Maybe it was because I carried her to the hospital that night, but ever since, she's been especially clingy toward me. She's allergic to practically everything, except me. It was like she was glued to my side, refusing to be separated. When she was small, it was okay to hold her. But now she's grown up. It's not exactly appropriate for her to hang off me all day. Anna woke around 8 in the evening, stumbling out to find me, half asleep. The moment she saw me, she instinctively tried to snuggle into my arms, and I had to push her away to remind her of her surroundings. Brother, good evening, she said. Heat up your own food, I told her. Remember to wear the microwave gloves. Your room is next door, she asked. Brother, do you want to check my suitcase? I frowned. Why? She said, I brought you a present I made myself. Curious, I opened her small suitcase. Inside was a neatly folded scarf. Brother, Happy New Year, she said. I looked at the scarf and smiled. Happy New Year, she added. There's also a bank card hidden inside. The pin is your birthday. Confused, I blurted. Why are you giving me this? What are you trying to do? It's really not necessary, she insisted. Brother, you must take it. It might not mean much to you, but it's very important to me. It's not because I'm in love with you. It's because if you ever want to get married but can't afford the dowry, at least I could help. Even if you don't marry me, I'll always be your family. Brother, I haven't visited you all this time because I didn't have the money. I was afraid I couldn't gather enough for your bride price and wouldn't dare see you. Brother, finally, I can come. It's been years. I've missed you so much. Biting my lip, I said, take your card and get back to your own room. She teared up, choking on her words. Brother, are you planning to give me the bride price? That's so touching. I was speechless, my head buzzing. Finally, I pinched the bridge of my nose and warned, if you keep up this act, you're not getting any dinner. Chapter 6. Anna stayed with me for a while. I took her shopping for more clothes. She needs custom fabrics. Not out of vanity but because custom materials are more stable for her allergies. Compared to most people, she's the real young lady in terms of delicate constitution. This was the 7th time this year that I'd run into Willow at the mall. By now, I'd gotten used to it. She looked at me, lips pressed tightly together. Anna didn't like her. The moment she saw Willow, she muttered, all she does is sulk and throw a fit. Bro, how much do you owe her? If it's too much, I'll just sell myself to pay it back for you. It must be tough dealing with someone who's basically a walking balloon of anger. I frowned. Shut up. She gave me a place to live, our current place. Anna gave a snort. So what? We can earn our own money, save up, and buy one ourselves. If it's not working out, just give it back. I shook my head. Close your mouth. Your brother practically risked his life for that apartment. I went on that mountain trip with her and ended up walking all night in the hills, nearly dying in the process. I earned that place. Anna's eyes trembled slightly. Bro, just wait for me. My friend and I have started streaming, and it's finally taking off. Once I become a big influencer, we can buy our own place. No problem. Willow watched us whispering, heads close together, and couldn't help but ask, why do you have to huddle so close just to talk? Anna mumbled under her breath, we're trash talking you, but then she looked up with a bright smile. Willow, sometimes it's better not to be too dramatic. If you're upset, say so instead of making others guess. My brother has night blindness. Making him walk around in the dark all night was too dangerous. Willow froze for a moment. Since when did he? She stopped midway, turned to look at me, and pressed her lips together without finishing her question. Anna, however, tightened her grip on Willow's arm and went on. Willow, thank you for all your help lately. Is there anything you like? I'd be happy to buy it for you. Willow shook her head. I don't need anything. Her expression darkened, but Anna didn't get angry. She just smiled and said, well, at least add me on social media. My brother's going to be busy soon, so if you need anything, you can find me. Anna was due back at school soon. Before leaving, she dawdled for ages at the door, and even after entering the station, she kept turning back. Brother, remember me? Okay. I went up to give her a hug. She froze for a second, staring at me. Brother, is that your way of responding to my feelings? I didn't answer. I just slipped her bank card back into her pocket. After a long pause, she finally hugged me back. Only when she'd passed through security did I point to her pocket. She reached in, went stiff, and gave me a wounded look. Brother, come back here, take the card. Brother, don't go. Excuse me, sir, can I go through just once more? Brother, look at me. I pretended not to hear and strode off. Not seeing Anna might have been easier. When we're apart, we share a few things and occasionally think of each other. But the emotions aren't so heavy. Once we see each other, though, goodbyes become impossible to bear. No matter what I do, I can't stop the ache in my chest when we part. As it turns out, Anna's bank account holds a whopping $880,000. Apparently, she never spent a single cent of the money I'd given her. Chapter 7. After Anna left, my new semester started. Since I was planning to go to graduate school, I decided to resign from my position as department head. I thought of Willow and specifically reached out to let her know. After all, the red envelopes she used to send me wouldn't work anymore. She'd need to contact our advisor or someone else if she needed help. It took her a long time to reply with a single word, okay, that was it. I didn't think much of it. Willow stayed out of touch for a long while. Then one day, I heard she had started dating someone. I assumed it might be David, but it turned out it wasn't. Apparently, she was seeing someone within her circle of wealthy second-generation friends. I wanted to confirm one last thing, so I took my property deed and went to see her. At the time, Willow was in the yard of a villa having afternoon tea. There was a man by her side, and when he saw me, he frowned. I hesitated. About this apartment. Willow bit her lip. George, did you come here just to talk about that? I wavered. Not only that. Also the car you used to have your boyfriend pick you up with back when we spent time together. Since we were never really together, it doesn't feel right for me to keep it. George. She was genuinely furious. Her face turned bright red, and she practically exploded. You came to me now just to burn all bridges. I answered quietly, no, that's not it. She fumed. I don't want to see you right now. Could you just leave? I froze for a moment. Then, after a long pause, I said, sure. So I left with the deed. On the way home, I decided that place was basically my humiliating payoff. If I keep being a loser, the only thing I'll win is the Biggest Loser award. Clutching the property deed, I headed home happily. If I didn't keep it now, I'd never get anything later. Even selling the apartment would net me $1 million or so. Enough to buy Anna a ring someday. Later, around graduation, I bumped into Willow again. She was wearing a beautiful graduation gown. As we passed each other, she grabbed my sleeve. She asked, George, was there ever a moment when you actually liked me, just because you liked me, not for my money? I thought for a moment, then sighed. Willow, the truth is, you're liked because of your money. She frowned. What's that supposed to mean? I replied, Willow, you're generous. That's how I could ignore all the insults and tantrums you threw. If it weren't for your money, who could put up with everything you do, especially the way you have no boundaries with other guys? Who'd want to be with someone if they're always afraid of being cheated on? To be honest, when a woman willingly spends money on a man, it often creates the illusion that she must be head over heels in love with him. So, when you gave me those things, I fell for that illusion. I thought you had to like me. But I soon understood that none of it really mattered to you. You just don't have a sense of money. It was like throwing a bone to a dog. I get it, but real love shouldn't be like that. Real love isn't about feeling like the other person owes you. So you can throw a tantrum anytime, anywhere, without caring about their feelings. Even when I was stranded on that mountain all night, you didn't realize anything was wrong. I hardly know anyone in the city, and the moment I nearly slipped down the mountainside, the first person I thought of was you. I kept telling myself Willow was just acting spoiled and would come find me if I didn't call for a whole night. Maybe my phone died and we missed each other's messages. But the more I walked, the more disappointed and chilled I felt. By dawn, when I saw the bus station, it finally sank in. We were only in it for what we could get from each other. Willow held onto my hand and didn't let go, wrinkling my sleeve, and I heard her soft, tearful explanation. I'm not. I cut her off. Willow, after graduation, I'm going to get married. I'll send you an invitation. Please do come. She looked up at me, her expression blank, as though in a daze. After a long moment, she finally answered, all right. Chapter 8, Extra Willow. George is getting married. At his wedding, I watched him marry someone else. He said she was his childhood friend, but if we're talking about who met him first, that girl couldn't have beaten me. The first time I actually met George wasn't in college, it was back in 2nd grade. It was sometime in the 90s. My family was still building up its business then and nowhere near as wealthy as we are now. My parents were always busy, so they'd just stuff wads of pocket money into my hands and tell me to buy my own snacks. When they moved inland for work, they transferred me to a local public elementary school. People there weren't exactly friendly, or to put it another way, they bullied me. My mom and dad never came to pick me up, so I was an easy target. After having my money taken several times, I told my deskmate about it. That deskmate's name was George, not someone with the same name, the George, the one who acted all quiet and well-behaved on the surface but would go behind people's backs with a brick in hand. He told me he could protect me. The first time he got into a fight for my sake, I paid him 20 yuan. After school that day, he grabbed a brick and got into it with those boys. By the end, he had a foot on one of them, was holding 2 more by the shirt, and forced them to apologize before letting them go. Then he went home happy with the 20 yuan I gave him. The second time he fought, I paid him 80. Not because he demanded more but because that time, he pulled off something even bolder. Those bullies had enlisted some local dropouts to ambush me outside the school gates. I was still just a little kid, and I felt sure my life was over. I was terrified. Then George showed up again, wielding a toilet scooper from the bathroom used for cleaning out waste. At first, he only threatened them with it, swinging it around, so they kept their distance. But they wouldn't actually back off or let us leave. Finally, George got fed up, went straight into the bathroom, and scooped out a heaping ladle of human waste. The group freaked out, all yelling, "Don't come any closer." He didn't. He just started flinging it at them. The stench, that day, the entire school erupted. The administration told everyone to bring a parent in. That's when George looked at the teacher and said with a smile, "I can write as many self-criticisms as you need, but I'm from the orphanage. I don't have parents." I froze. That was the moment I realized, he's an orphan. I tried to defend him, saying he was just being heroic. My parents arrived, and they said the same thing. In the end, George didn't have to write any self-criticisms or call any parents. Instead, he got a 500 yuan reward. Granted, that reward came from my family's pocket. Afterward, George came back to me and asked if I could keep paying him to be my bodyguard. I asked, "But didn't I just give you 500? He shook his head. The school handed that money straight to the orphanage. I'll never see any of it. So I went on a spree of buying snacks and meals for him, giving him plenty of money. But soon after, I had to transfer schools. Before transferring, I found a neighbor and gave him my favorite toy, asking him to look after George for me. That neighbor's name was David, and he really did keep an eye on George. As for me, I went abroad for a long time, long enough that I nearly forgot all of this. I left the country at 9 years old and didn't come back until I was 18. By then, I felt completely out of touch with everything here. Unlike most people, I never took the 9-year Gaokao track. I was an exchange student. I always felt above everything here. I skipped classes, until they told me I might not graduate. My dad scolded me. So in the end, I showed up at the student council. That's when I saw him. At first, I only felt he looked familiar. That memory was buried deep inside me. I couldn't quite place it. All I could see was that he loved money, exactly the kind of person I hated most. And yet, something about him intrigued me. I looked for excuses to see him. Watching him eat made me weirdly happy. I remember being really happy, too. On the night we celebrated his birthday, the moment he looked at me, my cheeks warmed up. My heart felt like he'd pulled on it, throwing it off beat. George took on a bunch of part-time jobs, but his grades never seemed to slip. He was amazing, good at everything, handling problems quickly and efficiently. He always had solutions. I'll never match that, no matter what. I realized how capable he was, but I got mad at him anyway. Why couldn't he just dedicate himself to cheering me up, Why care so much about studying and working? But I never said a word. I wanted him to figure out my feelings on his own. During that mountain trip, I was in some inexplicable snit. If he was so capable, he could have just stayed strong and come after me. I was waiting for him to realize I was upset and come coax me to make up. I never considered that his phone battery might have died, or that he'd end up spending the whole night alone in the darkness of the mountain. After that day, he seemed to drift further and further away from me. He never looked at me the same way again, but I thought, this jerk loves luxury cars and fancy homes best, so giving him an apartment should be the easiest way to hold on to him. He owed me, I threw him a bone, so he should keep groveling at my feet, right? Yet he didn't, not one bit. Then he tried to give the apartment back, which made me even angrier. He wasn't just returning the apartment, he was telling me he wanted a clean break, severing all ties, but I didn't want things that clear-cut. I wanted to keep him entangled, because as long as that apartment stayed in his name, I still had a chance. Then he went and got married. Still, the apartment was in his hands. If his marriage failed one day, maybe I could step in as the homewrecker. Except he bought himself a new place, and that girl Anna even rented out the apartment I gave him. Chapter 9, Extra, Anna. New Year's, Chinese New Year's Eve, 10:07 a.m. I set off to give my brother a surprise. First day of the Lunar New Year, 1:40 p.m. Darn it. I arrived at my brother's place and found a woman there, with a kid. Scared me half to death. Let me hug my brother to calm down. In the living room. What's this? It's my dearest brother. Might as well hug him. In the kitchen. What's this? It's my dearest brother. Might as well hug him again. In the bedroom. What's this? It's my dearest brother. Another hug can't hurt. Heading out the door. What's this? It's my dearest brother. One more hug, please. My brother. My very own brother. The past. My parents aren't dead. They just didn't want me because I'm prone to allergies. They threw me away. I got lost and couldn't find my way home. So someone took me to the orphanage. It was my first time there, and I stared at everything in fear. The staff were busy, so they handed me off to a boy who was about my age. That night, I broke out in hives, red, itchy, and painful, but I tried to tough it out. Eventually, I felt like I couldn't breathe, like my mind was shutting down. By morning, someone was lifting me. That boy shouted, "She looks like she's having an allergic reaction. Call 120. I tried to force my eyes open but couldn't. I reached out and grabbed a bit of his shirt. "Don't abandon me. I won't do it again." He patted me, saying, "I won't leave you behind. The ambulance will be here soon. I'll take you to the hospital, and everything will be okay." When I came to, I was already in the hospital with my brother by my side. I reached out for his sleeve and fell back into a peaceful sleep. Later on, they bought me a set of pure silk sheets and blankets. My brother teased me for being fussy, reminding me that silk had to be hand-washed. He taught me how to wash them carefully, little by little. But since there was only one set of silk bedding, when it was being washed, there was nowhere else for me to sleep. So I snuck into my brother's bed in the middle of the night, and didn't have any allergic reactions. It was strange. Somehow if it was my brother's bed, I'd be fine. Even hugging my brother didn't trigger anything. Later the doctor suggested it might be psychological, but I don't believe it. I just feel like my brother is my savior, the one who came to rescue me. My good brother, my hero. Marriage, brother, hug me, please. Baby wants a hug. George replies, "Anna, you're 22 now." I pout. "What does a hug have to do with age?" George asks. "Then what does it have to do with?" He pushes me away, but I don't give up. I say, "It's about how much I feel like being hugged by you in this moment." "Brother, guess what? I've prepared a lot of clothes." "What clothes?" I grin. "You'll find out, when you marry me." Chapter 10, Extra, David. Purely David's perspective does not represent an omniscient viewpoint. Willow, what the hell is your problem? Even a dog wouldn't want you. So why the hell are you crying? Just because she's a woman. I'm not allowed to reject her confession. Does she really think having a bit of money makes her some kind of white, rich, and beautiful young lady that everyone automatically falls for? What a total yandere. She's always picking fights and playing the moral coercion card. One little disagreement and she's instantly mad. Then turns around saying she's a hopeless romantic who's bound to get scammed by men. Hopeless romantic. My ass. She's dated 18 boyfriends in a single year. Doesn't that make her clueless beyond belief? If I had to date someone like that, I'd charge for emotional damages. Otherwise, I'd be the sucker here. No way I'd ever want a girl like that. Even if she paid me. She can only dangle money in front of George just because he's an orphan. But trust me, if anything actually goes down, George can run off faster than anyone. That clueless brat should just rot away alone. She knew there were only 8 seats on that trip, but she still insisted on dragging George along so he'd have to ride the sightseeing shuttle by himself. Who gave her the right to humiliate him like that? And leaving him up in the mountains, she clearly told everyone else to go so she could force George to stay behind. Just for the sake of throwing a tantrum and making him apologize and coax her. Did she ever even see him as a human being? That's some twisted mind game right there. I tried calling George 16 times. And then I found out he'd canceled his high school phone number ages ago. But my family does business with Willows, so I couldn't just tell her off. It nearly drove me insane. When I heard George finally got back safely, I could at least breathe easier. A word of caution, don't be fooled by that pampered princess's good looks. If you stick around, you'll end up her simp. The minute something feels off, run. If she tries to mess with your head, fight back. Magic against magic, you know. She never reflects on her own behavior. All she does is gross people out. If you hesitate, you'll be stuck disgusted for life. I have trypophobia, and I really can't stand people who are full of schemes. And now she's acting all pitiful, waiting for George. A piece of work like her can't even sort out her own mess. She still has to chase after George. Well, George could marry 6 times over, and it still wouldn't be her turn.